So we're going to make our own little Arctic polar bear or Arctic penguin, okay, using clay. So we need a clay board, we need some slip, which is clay and water. That's sort of been left to soak till it makes this sort of sludgy consistency, which is our glue for clay. We've got a clay tool to help us with our modelling and to apply the slip with, and we've got a clay knife as well. So we're going to start off rolling out a good sized ball of clay in our hands. So use the palms of your hands and really look at the shape of the piece of clay. If you need to pat it a little bit into shape, you can do that. And then we're going to roll it ever so slightly in one direction to a bit more of an egg shape to start with. Now, if you're using air drying clay, you might find that it's a little bit firmer and it does dry out much more quickly. So you do need to be quite quick with your modelling. If you're using normal sort of stoneware buff clay that is going to be fired, which is what this is, okay, then it does stay a little bit more pliable and a bit more workable and moist, if you like, a bit damper. It's easier to model with as well. You don't have to fire it, you can actually leave it to dry out, and it's perfectly fine if you leave it to dry, you know, just air dry as it is. It'll obviously take a good week or so to be completely dry, so it doesn't have to be fired. All right, so we've got an egg shape, and then we're going to smooth out the surface. Now, I am going to talk to you a little bit about firing, okay, because if it does go in the kiln, which is a big oven for clay, which goes up to 1,000 degrees. So if you think about your oven in the kitchen goes up to about 200, 250 maybe, when you pop a pizza in for 8 minutes, the kiln does get very, very hot. Now, if I was to put this lump of clay in the kiln, all right, it's quite thick, it would break. So it just needs hollowing out. All right, so you can do that. You can choose to do this or not. It depends whether or not your school's going to fire your little models. And we use something called hollowing tool, okay, which is a wooden tool with kind of like a wire hoop on the end. And all we're going to do is just scoop out some of the centre. All right, just to make the inside hollow, but also that makes the clay on the sides of our model much thinner. And that will avoid any breaking should it go into the kiln. All right, so we're just going to pat that so that it stands up. So you can see with both of these two have been hollowed out. So this is why any ornaments you'll find in your house have got holes in the bottom, they're hollow. Okay, so we've got our egg shape. So what we're going to do next is we're going to squeeze the top and make the head. So all I'm doing is with my finger and my thumb is I'm just pressing in to create the neck, and this little lump that I've got here is going to form the head. So what I'm going to do now is squish the head a little bit and pull it out, just tease out one end. So that's either going to form the nose of your polar bear or the beak of your penguin. So I'm going to do this twice so you know which one you want to make, and you can make both quite easily. Okay, so we'll do the penguin first because that one's perhaps a little bit easier. There's a bit less detail on the penguin. Okay, so there he is. There's his beak. We've got a head. Right, I've got a nice little fat body. We've got to keep warm when they're in the Arctic, so we don't want him too skinny. There we go. So just using the tip of your clay tool or the tip of your knife, you can pop in two little eyes. There we go. And what we'll do now then is we'll make the flippers. So again, start off with a smaller ball of clay. There we go. And then again, we're going to roll it into an egg shape, and we're going to flatten it out. So we're trying to make flipper shapes. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to cut that in half. So I've got two the same size, and then I can just model that just using my fingers. Just smooth it out, flatten it between my finger and my thumb, and point one end. Okay, so it's kind of like a really long sort of leaf shape, if you like, with a pointy bit at the end. So we need 2 of those. So before you go attaching them to your penguin, just make sure that they are the same size. So sort of line them up together. Are they the same? Just about. And then we're going to use our clay tool and our slip, and making sure that we do actually get some of the sludgy consistency. We're not just dunking it in the water. We're then going to glue our little flipper onto the side. And it's up to you, you know, whether you want him with his flipper sticking out like that. You might want him touching his tummy. Okay, we'll maybe do one of each. And what I tend to do as well, just to avoid any breakages, is if you smooth that clay into the side of the body, because what you want really is you want your clay model to look like it's been made out of one solid piece of clay. There we go, so we just blend in the join, and that's just making it less likely to crack. Let's do the other one. I think what I'll do on this one is I'll have this one sticking out a little bit. I'm going to give him a bit of character. And again, you can see I'm just blending that in. So wipe off any excess slip for a nice neat finish and blend in the join. There we go. And then we need some feet. So again, little piece of clay, roll it into a ball in your hands. It's about the size of a Malteser, and then we're going to squish it but make it long. It's up to you how big you want to make your penguin feet. You might want to make him kind of like Pingu, so he's got really big feet, okay, or maybe like a crag hopper penguin that would jump along the rocks. So they've got quite big feet and quite big claws. So we'll make 2 of those. So we've got 2 long flat pieces of clay. And then what I can do is I can take my clay knife and I can cut in, let's just get it so that we're in the camera shot, there we are, and cut in some claws. So they have actually got little claws on the end of their sort of big webbed feet. So you need to grip onto the rocks and ice and things. So we'll make 2 of those. So there's 1. Let's just chop a few toes in this one. I'm just giving him sort of 3 little webbed kind of feet, toes. There we go, you can squish them a bit if you like. And then we're going to stick those to the bottom. So again, we need some slips, so let's pick him up. We're going to pop some on the bottom here, look, where the feet would go at the front. And then we're going to attach the little webbed feet, look at them sticking out. There we go, look. And then on the bottom, again, just blend it in. Okay, or tuck the clay into the hole that we've made. And there we have our little penguin. Maybe make his beak a little bit bigger and sharper if you want to. All right, there we go. So that's our penguin. So let's repeat that process again then, and we'll make the polar bear. So again, we're going to start off with a ball of clay. It's exactly the same. So again, just pat it into shape. So fingers out, using the palms of our hands, elbows out too, and really press. And then again into an egg. So I'm going to roll it that direction. And again, just to even help the drying process rather than firing if you're not firing it. And again, what we'll do is we'll scoop out the middle, and if it's been left to dry, it will just help it dry a lot faster because it's less thick. Now I'm going to scoop that bit out as well. There we go. It's a bit like scooping out a hard-boiled egg. There we go. let's just flatten that down, smooth that round a little bit so it sits up. And then again, what we did, if you remember, we pinched it, so we're making his head. Now the shape of the polar bear's head's a little, it's similar, but it is a little bit different. So we don't want him to look like a bird again, do we? So we do want him to look a bit more like a bear. So let's just pinch, make him a bit of a neck, and then let's just pull out the nose. But rather than making it quite so pointed, we're trying to make it a little bit flatter like a bear. Okay, and what I also did was I just pressed my fingers in to create a bit of a dint to sort of where his eyes would be. There we go. All right, and then when we stick his ears on, so he has got a bit of a ridge between the top of his head. There we are. So we're going to make two little small ears, so we kind of want two little pieces of clay almost the size of peas, well maybe one actually the size of peas, because their ears aren't very big on a polar bear. I'm going to cut that in half. There we go. So tiny little clay peas, very, very small. All right, and once we've rolled them into balls, you're just going to flatten them between your fingers. Okay, like that. And then we're going to pop a bit of slip on. And we're going to attach the little ears to the side of his head. And again, if you can, you probably find this easier because you've got smaller fingers than me. Try and blend those joins in. Just prevents that if your clay gets knocked while it's drying, it's just going to stop those ears getting bashed and possibly dropping off. There we go, so he's got two ears, there we are, lovely, looking good. So let's pop him a little nose on. And again, you can make the nose as big as you like. If you want to give your bear a bit of character, you can have a big nose. All right, so again, just a tiny little clay ball stuck on there. Two little eyes in that little groove that we've sort of made. There we go. Now this time with the legs, we're not just going to make feet sticking out the bottom, okay? And he doesn't have flippers. They've got quite long legs, polar bears actually. So what I'm going to do is we're going to take a piece of clay and we're going to roll something called a coil, which is basically a sausage of clay, but it is the clay term for a sausage of clay. So it's called a coil. All right, and we're just rolling that out on the board with our fingers. And we need 4 of those, ideally the same thickness, and then we can trim them so that they're the same length. Okay, so if you look at the one that I made earlier, he's got his little hands on his belly, okay, and he's got little paws on the end of his feet. All right, so we're going to try and do that now. So that's 2. Okay, let's do 2 more. Again, just grab a bit of clay, just move those forward a little bit. I'm rolling it on the board. You can start it off in your hands if you want to, just to get it round. And then as it's rolling, you sort of move your fingers from the middle towards the edge, a bit like if you've ever made pasta. Okay, and then you get a bit of length. There we are. So I'm just doing 1 more, and I've got 4 legs. Like I said, at any point during this video, you can pause, you can rewind. Okay. There we go. So we've got 4 coils. So let's get them lined up. And now I'm going to trim them to the same length. Okay, put those little bits to the side. Just trim that bit there. There we go. And smooth them out. And then round off the ends. I'm going to do that on all of them to start with, particularly if I've got any sort of little lines in them. I want them nice and smooth. You can try and get your clay as smooth as you can. If you are then going to sort of paint them when they're dry, it just makes painting a lot easier because you've got a nice smooth surface. It'll be much quicker and easier to paint. So again, we're going to flatten the top bit, all right, of both of these little arms. Okay, again, let's get a bit of slip on there. Like our cement, and I'm going to blend in the top of the arm into the body. All right, and again, it's up to you what he's doing. So he could be holding his belly like the other one, or he might be waving, or maybe he's got a hand on his head. Let's try and maybe do. There we are, make him wave, shall we? Let's pop that arm up. we go, look. And then for the feet at the bottom, what we're going to do is we're going to make two little paws, like he's kind of sat with his feet sticking out, so like we've got here, look. So again, just two little play circles. Right, I'm going to squish. So try and get those both the same. It's a bit smaller than Maltesers, but bigger than a pea. Just going to glue those on, blend that in, and then again we're going to stick those to the bottom. So again we want a bit of slip on end of the leg. It's going to go underneath here. I'm going to glue it to the bottom, look, and tuck it under into that hole if we can. Bit of slip on that one. Oops, let's turn his leg round, there we go. And there he is. So we've now got a little family of polar bears and penguins. And I hope you have fun making yours.